I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons, my Bibliospran, Bibliohowlers, and Bibliomancers. Thank you so much for supporting my hobby and passion even more. It means so much to me. Hi everyone, Patek here. Today's video will be SFF Spotlight episode 12. Yes, episode 12 already, and every time I make this video, I always think, wow, it's been 2 weeks already since I made my last SFF Spotlight video. And yeah, today we have more than 20 news to talk about. For those of you who don't know, SFF Spotlight is a series of videos where I talk about new cover reveals, new book news, and new special edition being announced within 2 weeks. And for today's video, I'm going to start by talking about all the news regarding self-published fantasy books first, because self-published fantasy and sci-fi is killing it in the market right now. And I'm going to start by talking about all the Kickstarter projects first. So the first one is the one where I made the video already, and this is for The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. I am still not over this news, okay, because The Sword of Kaigen is my favorite self-published fantasy books of all time. It is also my favorite standalone books of all time. Hearing that there will be a hardcover and limited edition of this book makes me super happy. Seriously. I already made a dedicated video talking about this, so I will leave the link in the description down below, and I will also leave the link to the Kickstarter in the description down below. But I'm just going to say that the special edition will have a new cover art done by Felix Ortiz. And yeah, I think it looks absolutely amazing. This cover art, for those of you who have read the book, for those of you who have read The Sword of Kaigen, you will know just how important this scene is. Just how amazing it is. It is one of the best scenes in epic fantasy, in my opinion. And I think Felix Ortiz did such a great job in illustrating the cover art. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there will also be a new map, new end paper, and also new interior formatting. And the Kickstarter will go live in the first week of November, but it will definitely be in November. I cannot wait for it, and I definitely will get myself a copy of The Sword of Kaigen limited edition. And the second news is again for another Kickstarter project, and this is for the sequel to The Written, which is the second book in the Emma Nesca series by Ben Galley. So many of you have asked me how to attain yourself a copy of The Written illustrated edition, and Ben Galley has mentioned that this is your chance, because not only you will be able to get yourself a copy of Pale Kings, the second book in Emma Nesca, you will also be able to get a copy of The Written if you miss backing the first Kickstarter. So this is your chance, and believe me, so far this is the most beautiful self-published fantasy books that I own. And I know that this title will be replaced, I think, not too long from now, because right now self-published fantasy authors are making gorgeous special editions through Kickstarters, and I think they all look amazing. Plus, in my opinion, they are, I think, more affordable than, let's say, books like Dragonsteel or Folio Society, or even Subterranean Press, which in my opinion are super expensive books. And the Kickstarter for Pale Kings actually goes live today. So yeah, you can actually get yourself a copy of The Written and also the Pale Kings now. I will leave the link to the Kickstarter project in the description down below. And another Kickstarter project for a self-published fantasy book, and this one hasn't goes live yet, but this is for, I actually have the book already, so I'm going to show you this one. This is for Soul from Gold to Iron and Rust. Ta-da! This is written by two authors, Jacqui Davis and Grierson, and Soul is an illustrated fantasy novel. So what does it mean? Well, I'm going to show it to you now. I will leave the link to the Kickstarter project also in the description. But, oh yeah, see, this one is signed, and I luckily got edition number 000, which I think is super cool. So I don't know how the project will go yet, but this edition, almost every chapter comes with a fully colored interior artwork. So this one, at the beginning, you will see the map done by the authors themselves. And yeah, I'm going to show you two interior artworks here. So this is the first one. See, it's fully colored, and I think it looks beautiful. I'm going to show you another one. Ah yeah, this one. This one. This interior artwork is done by the authors, and I think it is amazing because the author, not only they write the book, they're also doing the interior artworks themselves, and I think that is super impressive. You know what, I will show you another one because this edition is super gorgeous, and showing more illustrations might help you decide whether you should get yourself a copy of this book or not. This is another one, and I think in total there are more than 20 illustrations. So yeah, make sure to check this one out. Again, I will leave the link to the Kickstarter in the description. And I want to say thank you so much to the authors for sending me a copy of Soul. I haven't read this book yet, I just got this book. So I look forward to reading it. And I really hope that the Kickstarter project will proceed successfully. And the last Kickstarter project I'm going to mention today is not for a book, but it is for a D&D 5e settings and supplement. But this D&D is based on Songs of Chaos, a Dragon Rider epic progression fantasy series by Michael Miller. This is done in collaboration with Wider Path Games, and the art you're seeing right now is done by Ertac Altinoz, which is the lead artist for Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon TV show. So if you pledge on the first day, which is today, you will also get a free dice from the developer. So if you're curious, if you're someone interested in playing D&D and also you love fantasy books and Dragon Rider epic progression fantasy series, make sure to check this Kickstarter project out. I think it looks really great. And once again, you can get a free dice from the developer by pledging on the first day of the Kickstarter project, which is today. So that's it for self-published fantasy Kickstarter projects. Now let's talk about cover reveals in self-published fantasy right now. First, we have The Severing Sun by Vaughn Roycroft. This is the first book in the Sundered Nation trilogy, and the cover art is done by John Anthony Di Giovanni. I think the cover art looks amazing. And actually, Philip Chase, he did a full spoiler-free review and also a cover reveal for The Severing Sun on his YouTube channel. Vaughn Roycroft has actually sent me an advanced reading copy for The Severing Sun, and I look forward to reading it. Plus, Philip Chase gave it such a glowing review. But for those of you who are curious and you want to know what the premise is about, this is the premise to The Severing Sun. Tales of the bringer of Urinan had been told for generations, but never had the prophecy felt near to so many. Elan wasn't sure if she even believed one man could cause the sort of upheaval that would change the world. And yet, just as the prophecy foretold, dark forces were on the rise, including the many Spali warbands raiding across the borderlands. It was in pursuit of one such warband when Elan's host discovered the hidden compound of the outcasts. She heard how the former chieftain of the mighty Amalus clan had been unjustly accused of murdering his rival, how the conflict had begun over a woman, how the outcast son, born of that same woman, perfectly matched the prophecy's foretelling of the bringer. Prophecy aside, it seemed that fate had led Elan into the midst of a legend because of a choice made in the heat of a battle. Elan found herself bound to an outlaw, hunted by friend and foe alike. Whether she believed in the prophecy or not, she found herself entangled with a lone figure who vowed to seek the sort of upheaval that might just change the world. There is no sighting of the physical copy of The Severing Sun yet, but well, the ebooks alone look super gorgeous already with the cover art, and I think I will be reading this sooner than later because I heard that the author planned to actually finish the entire trilogy within next year. So that is an impressive and ambitious undertaking, and I wish him the best of luck. So the next cover reveal is for The Titan Hoppers by Rob J. Hayes. So I forgot on which SFF Spotlight, but I actually already did showcase the cover art to The Titan Hoppers, but the previous cover art was actually a mock-up cover art. It is not the final cover art, and this one, the one that is illustrated by Mansik Young and with the design by Shawn King, is the final one. I think the new cover art, well, the real cover art, looks much better, and I think it's quite impressive because before this final cover art was revealed, the book already did quite well on Amazon and also on Goodreads, and I think with the new cover art it will actually earn more sales. I haven't read this book yet, but many people have said that it is one of Rob J. Hayes' finest work. And speaking of a design by Shawn King, the next cover reveal I'm going to show is another one that is designed by him, and it is for the fourth book in Arcane Ascension series by Andrew Rowe. This is for The Silence of Unworthy Gods. Yes, I think the cover art looks amazing. The cover art is done by Daniel Kamarudin. And yeah, I think the cover art looks really nice, but I haven't read Arcane Ascension past the second book. The last one that, to be more precise, I actually read like some chapters of the third book, and I wasn't feeling too invested in it, so I just dropped it. But well, Arcane Ascension is, I think, one of the most highly praised self-published fantasy series out there, so make sure to check this one out if you're a fan of progression fantasy series. And then the last self-published fantasy cover reveal is for the third book in the Hybrid Helix series, a superhero fantasy series by JCM Berne. And the title of this book is The Blood Reunion. I haven't read this series, I haven't started this series yet, and I heard many great things about this series actually. Andrew from Andrew Wizardly Read praised this series very much, and I look forward to reading this someday. But the third book of this trilogy is being released on Halloween. Yeah, this Halloween, so not too long from now. And out of the 3 books in the series so far, I think Blood Reunion has the best cover art. And the cover art is done by the super famous Chris McGrath. And yeah, I think it looks really great. I look forward to reading this series someday. The author has sent me a review copy of the first book, and I really want to say thank you so much to him. And the last self-published fantasy spotlight is for Cradle. Cradle by Will Wight. Will Wight has announced that the final book in Cradle will not be released this year. It is pretty much confirmed now that Waybound will not be released within this year. But knowing Will Wight, I don't think it will be a long delay. I think it will definitely be released in 2023. And plus, this is the final book in Cradle. He has to do it right. This is the end not only to his most popular series, but also to the most popular self-published fantasy series, the most successful self-published fantasy series. So yeah, Will Wight has a lot of pressure, I think, riding on this one, and I hope that he will be able to nail a successful and amazing conclusion to Cradle. So that's it for self-published fantasy news. Yes, I told you there are a lot of self-published fantasy news within the past 2 weeks. Now let's talk about special editions, and there are 4 being announced. The first one is for the Goblin Emperor by Katherine Addison. This is the Broken Binding edition, and it will be for their December subscription, because they have teased for quite a while that their December subscription box will be for a standalone novel. And yeah, it has been announced that it will be for the Goblin Emperor, which is wholesome. If I'm not mistaken, people have called the Goblin Emperor a wholesome standalone fantasy book. I haven't read this one, and I heard that this is also a steampunk fantasy novel, but the special edition by The Broken Binding looks really great. So for those of you who are a fan of the Goblin Emperor, I hope that you will be able to get yourself a copy of this one. Then the next special edition is from Grim Oak Press, and this is for In His Majesty Service by Naomi Novik. So Grim Oak Press will be releasing their own special edition for the omnibus of the first 3 books in the Temeraire series, and the cover art is done by Daniel Govar. And I haven't read Temeraire series, and this is still on my long list of TBR pile, but this special edition looks really great. And for those of you who are a fan of the Temeraire series, make sure to check this one out. You can find all the details regarding this edition on the Grim Oak Press website. And also, speaking of Grim Oak Press, the owner of Grim Oak Press, Shawn Speakman, has revealed the cover art to his newest book. The title is The King Killing Queen, and my god, look at that cover art. It is done by Magali Villeneuve. I know nothing about this, book, but with this cover art, I will have to read it for sure. Magali Villeneuve is one of my favorite artists, and look at it, she did another terrific job, like always, on this cover art. Then the next special edition I'm going to show here is for Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Yeah, this is Folio Society edition, and it looks absolutely incredible. And this is what Folio Society have to say regarding this announcement. There can be few books as well known as Mary Shelley Frankenstein, adapted for stage, film, and radio over 100 times. This chilling gothic tale is thought by some to be the very first science fiction novel. Thought-provoking as much as it is thrilling, Frankenstein is indebted to contemporary scientific experiments and philosophical debates. Limited to 750 copies, each edition has been signed by artist Angela Barrett on a hand-numbered limitation label. Created in series with Barrett's remarkable illustrations for Dracula, the 8 color plates are set within elaborate black and white borders. 9 super vignettes represent further aspects of the story, and Barrett's work is completed with a splendid design block in silver and black foils on the ice blue leather binding and another on the slipcase. I don't think I need to say much more on this. Well, this is Folio Society. They always nail their special edition. Almost always anyway. And the last special edition I want to showcase today is for The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 10th anniversary edition of The Emperor's Soul, and no, this is not the Dragon Steel edition. This is not a Dragon Steel leatherbound edition, so yeah, your wallet and my wallet is safe right now. For now anyway. But the Emperor's Soul 10th Anniversary Edition will be released on October 18th. This special edition features the deleted prologue, the Imperial Full prologue commentary, and an original introduction from the publisher about the origins of the book. The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson is one of my favorite novellas of all time. It is absolutely impressive, and I think I will look out for this edition. But I already own a physical copy of the Emperor's Soul, and I also own the ebook edition of the Emperor's Soul as well. So unless there are many edition or interior artworks to the special edition, which I don't think they have, I don't think I will be getting this one, but we'll see. So that's it for the topic of special edition. Now let's talk about book news. And the first book news I want to talk about is about Fonda Lee's newest duology to be released in 2024 and 2025. The title of the series is The Guardian of the Scroll, and the first book is Scroll of the Heaven, and this is done in collaboration with Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, and I think this is such an amazing project. I cannot wait to read this one. There is just no way I'm not including this news on SFF Spotlight. I really want to read this one, especially after hearing that this is a fantasy duology inspired by Bruce Lee's life, writings, and philosophy. I definitely will read this one in 2024 and 2025. And the next news is from Samantha Shannon. Samantha Shannon just announced that there will be a third book in Roots of Chaos, and she will also release an Iris retelling book. I haven't read Priory of the Orange Tree yet, but I remember people constantly said that Priory of the Orange Tree is a one-off standalone, and apparently it's not. There is a prequel novel coming, and now there is a third novel, maybe a sequel to Priory of the Orange Tree being released. And this is why sometimes it's really hard to believe when an author mentioned that they are releasing a standalone novel, a one-off standalone novel, because usually that is not the case. I have seen so many occasions when authors mention that, yes, this will be a one-off standalone, there would be a sequel, and then it blew up into a trilogy or even more, which is not a bad thing when they're all so good, but again, this just makes one-off standalone in epic fantasy harder to find. And that's it for book news. But speaking of book news, Orbit just announced that they will be releasing a new publishing program, which I think will focus on ebook and audiobook sales. There aren't too many details on this yet, but I hope that it will only means good things for publishing. So I will leave the link to the announcement in the description down below. And speaking of Orbit books, the next section of this SFF Spotlight are all cover reveals. The last section of this SFF Spotlight. So yeah, we have 5 cover reveals to talk about, and the first 3 are all by Orbit. And the first one is for Blade of Dreams by Daniel Abraham. This is the second book in Kit Tamar trilogy, the sequel to Age of Ash, which still, unfortunately, I still haven't read yet, even though I have always wanted to read this one for quite a while. But the moment I got the book, somehow my reading mood for it hasn't appeared yet. I hope that next year it will appear, and then I will read Blade of Dreams after I'm done with Age of Ash. But the cover art to Blade of Dreams is done again by Daniel Doshu, and it looks beautiful. It doesn't look as gorgeous as the first book in my opinion, but I really like the direction of the cover art and the cover design of the series. The cover design is done by Loren Panepinto. And the next cover reveal is for something I'm super excited about. This is for The Sword Defiant by Gareth Hanrahan. Yes, Gareth Hanrahan, the author behind The Black Iron Legacy, The Gutter Prayer. The Gutter Prayer is one of my favorite debuts of all time. And now the author has mentioned, and now the news is out that Gareth Hanrahan is releasing a new trilogy, a brand new trilogy titled The Lands of the Firstborn. And the cover art is done by Thea Dumitriou, who also did the cover art to The Broken God, the third book in the Black Iron Legacy. And I think this cover art just looks amazing. I cannot wait to read this one. This is already one of my most anticipated books of 2023. And yes, it will be released in May 2023. The premise of the book is this. Many years ago, Sir Elfrich and his 9 companions saved the world, seizing the Dark Lord's cursed weapons, along with his dread city of Nekrat. That was the easy part. Now, when Elfrich, keeper of the cursed sword Spellbreaker, learns of a new and terrifying threat, he seeks the 9 heroes once again. But they are wandering adventurers no longer. Yesterday's eager heroes are today's weary leaders, and some have turned to the darkness, becoming monsters themselves. If there's one thing Elfrich knows, is slaying monsters, even if they used to be his friends. Set in a world of dark myth and dangerous prophecy, the Sword Defiant launches an epic tale of daring warriors, living weapons, and bloodthirsty vengeance. I love Gareth Hanrahan's prose. I love how imaginative his world building, and this seems to be more epic fantasy and less bizarre compared to the Black Iron Legacy. I think I will end up loving this one even more than the Black Iron Legacy. I will keep my fingers crossed. But yeah, the premise, the cover art, and also, well, the author, everything just sounds super promising for me. And the next cover reveal is for a debut novel, Perilous Times by Thomas D. Lee. The US cover art is done by Will Stell, and the UK cover art, which is published by Orbit, will be done by Joe McLaren. This is supposedly an Arthurian-inspired urban fantasy that is told in the vein of Terry Pratchett as well, so I think comedy will be involved in this debut novel, so I will keep an eye out for this one. And speaking of Terry Pratchett, the next cover reveal I'm going to show is for the new cover art for the Death series, the Death sub-series by Terry Pratchett. These are done by Leo Nichols, which also did the UK cover art to the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, and I think this cover art looks really nice, although my own preference seems to choose the Discworld Emporium hardcover. Again, I haven't owned any of the hardcover yet because I think those are very slippery slopes, and again, I haven't read anything by Terry Pratchett. I haven't finished reading anything by Terry Pratchett, and I want to make sure that I like his books first before I decide to get a physical copy of his books, because 41 books are slippery slope. I know that if I end up getting one hardcover of the Discworld Emporium library, I will end up doing everything in my power to actually collect the entire edition. So yeah. And now finally, the last cover art I'm going to talk about is something that in my opinion is super awful. It is awful, and I will, well, I'm leaving the worst for last this time. And this is for Forge of the High Mage by Ian Esslemont. The cover art is done by I have no idea who, because this is an AI cover art. It's such a shame. Come on, why use an AI art for a new Malazan book? This is Malazan. Malazan Book of the Fallen and Malazan Empire are some of the highly praised epic fantasy, and I know that fans will still end up getting a copy of this one, but this is just embarrassing. Yeah, this is just embarrassing in my opinion. From Steve Stone, who did such an incredible job in doing the illustrations for Path to Ascendancy, to something like this. Seriously, the more you look at this cover art, the worse it gets. It gets so bad every time you look at the details. I really hope that publisher will not making this a standard practice. Seriously, from my perspective, AI art can be used for personal usage and maybe, I don't know, interior artworks, although no, even for interior artworks, I cannot agree. But again, for commercial cover art and also interior artworks, I think artists, a real artist, not an artificial intelligence, even for an AI art, this looks really bad. I've seen some AI art that actually looks quite good, but this one is just awful. Just awful. I hope that they will maybe change the cover art before it's being released. Hopefully, but from my experience and from what I've seen, traditional publisher usually doesn't give a damn about this. They will just proceed with this one. So for those of you who approve this, shame on you. Seriously, shame on you. I don't care. Shame on you. And finally, the last spotlight on today's SFF Spotlight video is for a noteworthy release, and I only have one here. This is for Fight Magic Items, the history of Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and the rise of Japanese RPGs in the West by Aidan Moher. So this is a non-fiction, but come on, this is obviously related to fantasy. Japanese RPG, especially Final Fantasy, Suikoden, The Legend of Dragoon, Lunar, and many more are a part of me. They are a part of me growing up, and they are still a part of me today. And without a doubt, I will definitely read this one. And the author, Aidan Moher, seemed to be very well versed in Japanese RPG as well. So I am definitely looking forward to reading this one. I'm pretty sure that reading this non-fiction will actually help me relive my childhood again, my childhood and my teenage years. So that's it for today's SFF Spotlight video. I know that those are quite a lot of Spotlight. Seriously, there are so many news being released within 2 weeks. Just in the adult fantasy market, there are so many news already just within 2 weeks. So yeah, do let me know which news excites you the most. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.